Welcome back. We still continue with that conversation on insecurity in the north region of the country. Wilfred Muliro is still here with me. He is a diplomacy and security expert and equally a resident research fellow at the Global Center for Policy and Research. Of course, when we left off, one of the things that I really picked up from our conversation earlier is that we do not know these people. We do not know who they are. We do not know whether they're men or women. We do not know where they're getting their, illegal firearms from. So then from where you sit, and especially as a research fellow, how should we move on? Is military the best way of it? Or maybe we need to think about this all over again?
I would say that, the government has so many ways of, they know. But they know almost these people, but the distinction, whether these are the political criminals, these are the simply practicing their culture of livestock raids, or these are commercial bandits who are almost becoming terrorists. Whatever situation, the situation in the North Rift, the first instance of approach would never have been any other method other than restoring law and order first. And that approach must be military. Because we took long, we allowed it, it has been there for long, and people have been emboldened, and they were now brutally almost administering the region. The region was looking like ungoverned space, where the government does not have effective control and administration. So, as we mentioned earlier, the KDF is simply coming to stamp the authority of the government, that is a region under the territory of the Republic of Kenya, where the government of Kenya has effective control and administration. And it is the only provider of security. It has what they call the monopoly of a legitimate use of force. No another entity. So military is the beginning, and it should not be the long term, the final. It's just a form of creating conditions for now the long-term process of either integration, development, and other mechanisms to take place. Because remember, development and security are two sides of one coin. You cannot have one without the other.
True.
Without development, you'll have grievances, insecurity, and that's what is happening up there. And then the cyclic nature, with insecurity, you cannot have development. So the upper part there, what it requires first, then let's provide the conducive environment. Then we can think of the long-term processes that have been documented. A lot of, if you look at all the research around churches, NGOs, the government itself, they know the long-term program. Make the place habitable.
Okay.
Yes.
Of course, there are calls for full deployment of the military, but that will have to go through the process as we spoke earlier. But then let's talk about what we have right now.
Yes.
We have the National Police and we have some part of KDF. How do we ensure that these two entities work together in a synergy in order to ensure the best results? You can see you laughing.
Yes.
And I know we need results, even as we wait for more measures. But how do we ensure they work better together? Because I'm sure it's capable.
Yeah. It's
a possibility.
Yes, and we wouldn't give it so much despondence that is not happening. It's actually a multi-agency security deployment under the leadership of the National Police Service for reasons that legal requirements. And the second reason is we are dealing with the Kenyans. Remember that. It's not an external enemy to be destroyed. These are civilians. And remember the challenge of military-civilian relations. So the best is, as you penetrate into the civilians, the police are actually arbitrators who live with these civilians every time they meet them. So they are the ones to lead the internal onslaught. And I can tell you, I think there is a very good, we have observed very well, despite the hype and the talks, but so far there is a synergy, so far at this level. Because if you look at that, the police are within the people. These people we are calling bandits are in the people. Some of them, they are leaders and whatever, but the military are looking at surveillance of those small organized pockets. In fact, the deployment is yet to reach all, that's why there is this uproar, is yet to reach all hotspots of banditry. It's still thin on the ground. And maybe gathering information, checking, because these are Kenyans, you know, you must be very careful as a government. You are there for the people, and there's a group inside them. So even if we call for full deployment of the KDF, remember, these are members of this republic, and you must be cautious. But there is a synergy. That's why the National Police Service is useful in this case, and there is that synergy. But I get the reason why there is calls for KDF, and the reason is because there is a small pocket of members of that community. Remember, we should not blanket the whole community. And that's why at the beginning I gave you a class of 3. That there are people who are just practicing their cattle raid culture, and it's now dangerous. They should be softly discarded. Then there are those, now the commercial ones are the ones who have become more defiant and dangerous. Then we have the political. You want to rearrange political numbers. That's why you observed very well that during elections, you know, you want to win. So you destabilize people on one side, you promise them maybe guns even. So those are areas. But then, in my view, there is a synergy that is working. But we will require, as the members are saying, that those people who are showing some defiance, almost like militia organized, Professor Kindiki was talking about that, those are the ones that need direct, because they are organized and you can see them. So the military has a doctrine of dealing with battles. A battle has an organized team on the other side.
So briefly, even as we wind up, let's talk about long-lasting solutions. What should the government look at going forward to protect our fellow Kenyans?
Yes. You know, this has been done severally, and it boils down, in my view, to 2 things. That one, make that place habitable. That is the first thing there. And then number 2, provide alternatives that make banditry not lucrative. And that brings us back to all these things I have said. Construct roads, education, and schooling, electricity, make the place comfortable. But then there is it's not the only place. You know, you should also, as you talk about development, ask yourself, there are many marginalized places in this republic. And at the end of the day, you will go back and ask yourself that 2 things are almost standing out, which I mentioned. The political with a longer hand, the political dimension, that's where we need the political goodwill, and then the ethnic dimensions of communities. Because if you look at the whole region, even if we mapped and said Samburu, Laikipia, and what, it has come down to what we can call, somebody called Tuma, Pokot, Turkana, and Marakwet. At the end of the day, the dimensions are around those big communities in that region. So if the solutions were done in Mount Elgon, that involve don't work for the community, don't work for or on the community, work with the community. By that, let the community now, for the first time, stop what they always say. By the way, I come from Kitale, and for a long time, even when we were young people from Lodo, Turkana, will always say, when they come to, they say, we are going to Kenya. And we thought it was a joke, and you can see how it has degenerated. The attachment of those people to the government is what we need, the community to feel that the government, and it still goes back to the same thing. Be present there, militarily, security, and develop the area, open the region, political goodwill. This time around, the president, by good luck, by virtue of his background, we can say the president comes from that region.
So there is enough.
And he should be able, he understands the dynamics of eldership, the culture, and he can see the dangers of people who are exploiting cultural activities for their own benefit and making the area insecure.
All right.
So, Yes.
Okay. Well, this is a conversation that will not end, Wilfred, but thank you so much for your input. Let's hope for the best. Wilfred Muliro, diplomacy and security expert and equally a resident research fellow at the Global Center for Policy and Research. Thank you so much for your time. All right, I want us to talk about sports. The awarding ceremony for the 4th edition of Eldoret City Marathon has been held in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. The event was graced by Uasin Gishu County Governor Jonathan B., Standard Group CEO Lando Lyomu, as well as race director Moses Stanui. Standard Group is the media partner in the event. Let's just take a look at what's happening.
Competitors, and these people are running for climate change.
All right, we do apologize for that. Moving on, CEOs and senior managers have been challenged to embrace a culture development system as a way of measuring growth in their respective companies and as a result, get the best from their subordinates. In a training session organized by joint management consultant experts aimed at shaping the leadership skills of CEOs drawn from both public and private sectors, culture development was denoted to be one of the most valuable enhancers of growth in any company, contributing to well over 70% of growth, attesting to the challenges faced by Kenyan companies in as far as policy adaptation is concerned. HELB CEO Charles Ringera confirmed that indeed it's been a challenge trying to inculcate the positive cultures.
They are beautiful.
If they're willing to work according to them, make it very difficult, but to receive feedback as well. I know that our time is fast. We want to speak to you and speak to your leadership teams on how we can...
We are here today to host executives, the CEO of companies in Kenya, and our target was cross-industry. We are really looking forward to engaging more of the CEOs in this country on the topic culture and aligning culture to strategy. We know and we found out that most organizations talk about strategy, but they forget the ingredients of what will drive that strategy to the next level, where the staff members or the stakeholders in the organizations can actually deliver value to them through aligned or alignment processes in the organizations.
We have, as a country, really focused on performance, but we're not having enough conversations about culture. At board level, we're not having the conversations we need to have about culture. At CEO level, at executive level, those conversations need to happen so that together with the staff, we can build the culture that we want for the organization.
About 2-3 years ago, Public Service Commission directed that all institutions of government to do a culture audit. But then we didn't know what we were supposed to do with the audit results, or what are the implementation plans out of that. And then remember, the agenda will be set mainly by the administration of the day. That is one that will say how we are going to deliver, outside there. I can see it is changing, but still the change, just like an elephant, turns very slowly. I think it is turning, but turning a little bit slowly.
So our organization brings a difficult topic that touches every single organization, culture, into the limelight, and talking about culture from a data analytics point of view. So how can you measure it to the extent that you can then use those results to better optimize ways of working inside an organization?
The Arid and Semi-Arid Lands ASOL Principal Secretary Idris Dakota led a relief food distribution exercise in Kajiado County. According to the National Drought Management Authority, an estimated 2.6 million livestock deaths have been reported in the arid and semi-arid counties. Over 6 million people are facing food insecurity in 32 counties as the prolonged drought persists. The 32 counties are Turkana, Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Garissa, Tana River, among others.
Salamu zingine amesema niwaletee chakula ambacho kitawasaidia kupambana na ukame. Mko tayari kuchukua chakula? Tayari? Hebu pigie rais makofi. Na tatu amesema ukame ni kitu itakuja itapita. Kwa hivyo serikali imepanga mipango ya kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba janga kama hilo si chochote wala si lolote katika kuishi kwetu hapa Kenya. Na nyingine alimesema kwamba hakuna Mkenya hata mmoja atakufa na baa la njaa. Ukame ataweza kupambana nao na kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya, hata Mkenya mmoja hatakufa na ukame.
The Ugandan Parliament tabled the controversial anti-homosexuality bill for first reading in Parliament. The law seeks to prohibit and criminalize homosexuality and accords a punishment of 2 to 10 years in jail.